All right, today, guys, we're going to work on the decimal review, kind of just reviewing how to do the different kinds of decimals. Our goals today are to add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals. This little refresher, this should be on the front page of your note packet. We've got all the different ways to add decimals here. We just line up the decimals. There's the key right there, is to line those up. Same here with our subtraction. Make sure we fill our empty spaces with zeros here. That's going to be our key here, same on this one. Then our multiplication, we're going to multiply like normal. Okay, and then we're going to count how many places are in our factors, and the decimals moved over to the same thing in the answer. Over the division, we can read right here, the decimals cannot be a divisor. I might make this a little bit smaller. A divisor cannot be a decimal. Okay, now it needs to be a little bigger. Let's kind of match it to where I want. There we go. The divisor cannot be a decimal. That's going to be a key to the problem. You're going to move the divisor, that's our first number right here, until we have a whole number, and then we move the same amount of places in the dividend. And we'll talk about this as we go, as we practice these pieces. So let's go ahead and flip and practice our addition first. So first things first, we got to keep in mind is when we see the word sum right here, sum means the answer to an addition problem. Okay, so we got to make sure we keep it there, and it's important as we kind of start thinking through our year, we use the vocabulary of class, okay? As we use the vocabulary of the content area so that we can sound like we belong here. So we think about our first one, we got 29 and 6/10. Now the key was, again, lining up that decimal place. So it's 14 and 7/10. When we add, we just follow our regrouping rules. That's 13. Carry our 1, 9, 10, 14. Carry the 1 again. And then remember at the very end, or even at the very beginning, you take and drop that decimal into the final answer. And there we go. Go ahead and remember to circle or box your answer so we know it's your final answer. Now, you go ahead and try, pause the video and see what you get for a number for our second Now You Try. All right, let's see what we've got. So it's 68 and 7/10 plus 25 and 4/10. Now we're going to add those together again. You see, remember the key is I've got my decimals all lined up. Drop it down here into the final answer. 11, carry the 1, 1, 9, 9 and 4 is 14. Carry my 1, we get 94 and 1/10. Just like our problem we talked about when we talk about sum, knowing that's the answer addition, it's important that we talk and use our correct terms for our numbers. It's not 94.1, it's 94 and 1/10. Keep in mind that we have to speak the language of math. Let's move on to our finding our differences. So the difference, again, is the answer to a subtraction problem. And we start working these. So we set it up. Our decimal place is hidden on a problem like this. It's actually right at the very end. So we have 23, and then we have 4 and 216 thousandths. So this is what we're talking about at the very beginning. We have to fill in our empty spaces with zeros. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to require our regrouping. So at this point, we've done regrouping for a good amount of years. So when you borrow, you can come all over here and borrow from the ones place. You can go ahead and go, no, that's 9, cross it out, 9, because I'm going to borrow again, all the way down here to 10. And now we can subtract across. 10 minus 6 is 4, 9 minus 1 is 8, 9 minus 2 is 7. Then we got to borrow again, so we go and make it 12. Leave our 1 over here. 12 minus 4 is 8. Drop our 1. There's our answer as 18 and 784 thousandths. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try to find the answer or the difference of 34 and 5 and 374 thousandths. All right, so again, the key is to line up that decimal place so that you can be working in the same place values. So we're going to go ahead and add the zeros just like we did in our problem above and regroup down to 3, 9, 9, and 10. We'll cross out all our other numbers so we don't get confused. 10 minus 4 is 6. 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 3 is 6. We then have to borrow to make this 13 and a 2. 13 minus 5 is 8. 2 minus nothing is 2. So our answer is 28 and 626 thousandths. All right, now let's move on to the next step, to our multiplication. I even find this even easier. So we do, and this is one of the things I want you to keep in mind, is we kind of think this multiplication doesn't matter if you line them up. So I don't have to do it as 4 times 83 hundredths. That actually makes the problem more confusing and more tricky. What I want to do is think, okay, is there an easier way to multiply this? Yes, I want to put my 2-digit number up here at the top. Oh, 83, not 82. Let's fix that. There we go. 83, there we go, times 4. I'm going to use the dot for multiplication instead of the x, because we're going to be using that x a lot as we go through the semester when we do our expressions and equations unit. So now we multiply like normal. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry my 1. 4 times 8 is 32 plus 1 is 33. So now here's our last piece. We're going to count how many places are in our first factor. It's 2, 0, so our final answer is going to have 2 decimals, so we'll move it back in. My final answer is 3 3/32. All right, your turn to go ahead and try the next one. Go ahead and pause the video and give it a shot. All right, once again, we're going to put it like this with our 2-digit number as the first factor, and then we'll do it again. So 2 times 5 is 0. Carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So we move our decimal place 2 places, 2 in the answer. Now, this is where we're going to talk a little bit about a change. We don't need this number. That 0 is after our last value carrying digit 1 through 9. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite this in its simplest form, just like you would write a fraction, as 9/10. You wouldn't read it as 90/100ths, you'd read it as 9/10. It's the simpler way and the correct way to write the answer. All right, so a couple more for you to practice. Go ahead and we're going to skip that first one. It's just the same practice we've been doing in the video. And why don't you pause the video and try 5 times 17 and 8/10. All right, again, I'm going to take that 17 8/10 and put it as my first factor to make the problem easier to multiply. So 5 times 8 is 0, carry the 4. 39, add the 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. 1 decimal place, 1 in the answer. So again, I'm going to rewrite this answer as 89 in my simplest form. Okay, just like we did on our previous problem. All right, time to move to the most complicated portion of the problems is division, because division is interesting. When you think about it, it becomes a little different, and we're going to see this in a minute, because you cannot divide a decimal or divide a dividend by a decimal. It has everything to do with place values and how it works. So I'm going to kind of give you a little example. If I come over here and I say 3/10 and $1.53. Now, this would exactly divide. But when you think about this, I want you to think about this in money. And this is 30 cents. So I'm going to put it, kind of keep that in mind. So if I had $1, so that's our 10 dimes. Okay. Could I split that up into 30 sets of 30? Yes, I could. I could have 3 sets of 30. But when it comes back to actual math, if I take 3 and divide it by 1 and divide it by 3, that doesn't work. That breaks up our long division process. So that's kind of the main reason I can't divide by a decimal, because it really does, it messes up everything. So what I'm going to do is going to multiply the divisor. So if I've got 0.3 and 1.53, or 1 53/100ths, I'm going to multiply the divisor by 10, which lets me move my decimal point 1 to the right. I'll do the same thing here in the divisor as I now do the same thing in the dividend. That allows me to say, oh, 3 goes into 15 5 times, no remainder, or nothing left over. Drop my 3, goes into it once. Now it's 5 1/10 is my answer. It keeps us the same answer. So that only matters if there's a decimal here in the divisor. If it's in the dividend, we don't mind. So one of the things to keep in mind is, can I identify a dividend? The way you figure it out is it's at the end of the problem. If you kind of think here and give me an answer, I'll leave a blank for that. The end of the problem that you're given to start is the dividend. So this becomes 7.7 divided by 14. Now, I don't have to multiply by 10 because this right here is a whole number. So I go, how many times does 14 go into 77? About 5 times. So that's 70. All I'm going to do with my decimal point is let it rise up, put it in the answer, and I'm done with it. So I subtract, I get 7. I'm going to add a 0 so I can finish the problem. Drop 70. Oh, I know it's 5 again. So 70. I get 0. So the answer to this problem is 55 hundredths. Okay? All right, let's take a look at another one. I want you to try this first one. I'll go ahead and cover up both of them, the one that you don't have to work on. Try that first one and see what you come up with. I'll give you 5 seconds to try the problem. Pause the video, of course, and then try it. All right, so let's do that one together. 8 and 69 hundredths divided by 22. So that goes into, we know 3 times. Okay. Subtract, I get 20, 209 left over. Well, it looks like it's pretty close to 10 because 10 times 22 is 220. 209 is just a little bit less, so I'm going to say this is 9. So 9 times 2 is 8, carry the 1, that's 1819. I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to say, okay, keep working the problem. I got a 1 here. I'm going to have 1 here. I'm not going to really borrow. I kind of know that's how it works. And I'm going to drop the 0. I'm going to add a 0. I'm going to drop it down here to finish the problem. Okay, so drop my 0. 22 goes into 110 5 times. 110, I subtract, I get 0. So my final answer is 395 thousandths. All right, our last problem is this one right here. And you'll need to write this one into your notes. I added it extra afterwards, I think, as I thought about it. So 152 and 75 hundredths divided by 6 and 5 tenths. So this is that first time we're going to look, we have to move our decimal point here. So we're going to move it over 1. We're going to do the same in the dividend. And we put the answer, put it right in the answer. Now I work my way through. Now, one of the ways to kind of do this is I don't know my fixed 65 times tables, but I do know how many times 6 goes into 15. Well, I know it goes into it about twice, so that's what I'm going to say. 65 goes into 152 2 times, so that's 130. I'm going to get 22, 227 now when I bring my 7 down. 6 goes into 22 about 3 times. So 3 times 5 is 5, carry the 1, that's 19, 195. Subtract, that's 2, borrow 1. 12 is 3, so 32, 325. And I'm going to guess that's 5 times because 36 goes into 30 about 5 times. So 5, carry the 2, it's going to be 325. So my exact answer is 23 and 5 tenths. So now that you've had plenty of time to practice through these and kind of see each one, it gives you the idea and helps you work through your homework. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to help you. Have a great night.